this is a test. This is a test for my YouTube channel. I have decided to start it because I have a lot of questions. Um, a lot of social questions, a lot of science questions, questions in general. And I'm going to use ChatGPT and probably other internet sources to, you know, answer my questions. And if you have a rebuttal, if you think any kind of conclusion I come to is wrong, then great. I would love to be educated. That's what I'm trying to do and be. Uh, Please help. I don't care about being wrong. I don't care about being right. I'm just asking questions. And I think the discussion itself is valuable. So, one of the first questions I want to ask is what's wrong with democracy? What's wrong with capitalism? I'm sure lots of people have their opinions about it, and I just personally want to hear it. I want to know. I myself don't have an issue with democracy. It seems like the most moral thing. It seems like the most right thing to count everyone as an equal player in this whole kind of thing. Since we're all being taxed, well, all of our money is going towards a specific goal that we all particularly want. And so, yeah, I'm going to ask ChatGPT that. So, ChatGPT, help me understand democracy and capitalism and why it seems like it ends the U.S. American people in a place where they don't want to be. I'm going to let ChatGPT say some words.
That's a thoughtful and big question. Let's break it down step by step in plain terms, so it's easier to see how democracy and capitalism work in theory versus how they often feel in practice in the US. 1. What democracy is, in theory. Core idea: the people govern themselves. Citizens vote for leaders and laws, ideally shaping society around what most people want. Promise: equality of political voice, one person, one vote. Reality: in practice, money, lobbying, loud media influence, and low voter participation often skew outcomes. Those with wealth or organized power can have far more influence than average citizens. Number 2, what capitalism is, in theory. Core idea: an economic system where private individuals and businesses own property, compete in markets, and set prices through supply and demand. Promise: innovation, efficiency, freedom of choice, and prosperity. Reality: wealth tends to concentrate over time. Large corporations and investors accumulate resources and political leverage, while regular workers often see wages stagnate. Number 3, how they interact in the US. Here's where things get complicated. Democracy needs fairness in political voice, but capitalism gives disproportionate voice to those with more money through lobbying, campaign donations, media ownership. Capitalism needs competition, but democratic governments sometimes allow monopolies, bailouts, or regulatory loopholes that favor big corporations over small businesses and workers. The result? Policies often tilt toward protecting wealth and entrenched interests, even if that's not what most citizens want. Number 4, why people feel trapped. Even though Americans live in a democracy, many feel like their votes don't matter much compared to big money donors. Work doesn't pay enough, with rising costs of housing, healthcare, and education outpacing wages. Choices feel limited because both major political parties often prioritize corporate or donor interests over everyday needs. Freedom feels hollow because while you can choose in the market, you often can't afford the best options, whether that's good healthcare, higher education, or even just stable housing. So you end up with a system that promises freedom and prosperity, but often delivers stress, inequality, and frustration. 5. The big picture tension. Democracy says everyone should have an equal say. Capitalism says those with more resources will have more influence in the economy. When you put them together without strong guardrails, the economic inequality of capitalism seeps into the political system, bending democracy toward the will of the wealthy. That's why many Americans feel the system pushes them into places they didn't choose. Do you want me to also explain what alternatives exist, like social democracy, mixed economies, or different democratic reforms, so you can compare them to what we have in the US?
Yes, I think I do want to know what type of alternatives exist. I'm wondering, why would we not prefer these versus the aforementioned? Seems pretty long. So I'm going to ask it to break it down and a little bit more digestible, because it's a lot of information. Can you break this entire thing down into something a little bit more simpler, and we'll go into the details if necessary? Here we go.
Got it. Let's strip it down to the core ideas first. Simple and clear. Democracy. People vote for leaders and laws. Everyone's voice should count equally. Problem in the US, money and big donors influence politics more than ordinary people. 2. Capitalism. Businesses and people own things privately, compete, and make profit. In theory, creates innovation and choice. Problem in the US. Wealth piles up at the top, workers' wages lag behind, and corporations influence government. 3. When you combine them, democracy says equal voice for everyone. Capitalism says more money equals more power. Together in the US, money bends democracy. That's why many people feel trapped in a system that doesn't serve them. 4. Alternatives. Simplified. Social democracy like Scandinavia. Capitalism's high taxes plus strong safety net, free healthcare, cheap college, worker protections. Democratic socialism, social democracy plus public control of big essentials, housing, healthcare, energy, more worker ownership. Mixed market, like Germany, Canada, free market but with stronger regulations plus universal healthcare. Direct democracy, like Switzerland, more direct voting on laws by citizens. And 5, why the US stays where it is. Cultural belief in the American dream, big corporate influence, fear of socialism, deep political division. In short, Americans often want more fairness, security, and a real voice. But the mix of democracy plus capitalism here keeps funneling power toward money. Do you want me to expand next on the alternatives, like social democracy, and what they'd actually look like for your daily life in the US?
So I'm looking at the alternatives that was named: social democracy, democratic socialism, mixed market, and direct democracy. I'm definitely curious about the very last one and what it means exactly, direct democracy. When you say direct democracy, does that completely discount capitalism in its entirety?
Great question. No. Direct democracy is about how decisions are made, not how the economy is run. Direct democracy equals the political system. Citizens vote directly on laws and policies instead of just electing representatives. Example, Switzerland's frequent referendums. Capitalism equals the economic system. Businesses and individuals own property, compete, and try to make profit. So you can actually have direct democracy plus capitalism. People directly vote on tax rates, regulations, or business rules, but the economy still runs on private ownership. Direct democracy plus socialism. People directly vote on how resources or industries should be managed collectively. Direct democracy mixed economy. A blend, where some industries are public, some private, and the people vote on how to balance it. In other words, direct democracy doesn't replace capitalism. It just changes who has the final say on laws that shape capitalism. Do you want me to explain what direct democracy plus capitalism would actually feel like in daily American life?
I'm definitely curious about that. I'm just, at the moment, digesting. I'm trying to think to myself, what is really the difference between that and what we have today? Like, isn't it likely that we would move from that back to the system that we have? So that's what I'm going to ask you. Even if America were to move into a system such as this, why wouldn't it simply revert back to the way that things are now?
That's a sharp observation. And honestly, it's one of the hardest problems in political systems. Even if you change the rules, how do you stop the system from sliding back into the same patterns? Here's why it often happens in America. #1, money creeps back in. Even if you give citizens more direct power, wealthy groups can still use advertising, media, and lobbying to shape how people vote. Example, ballot measures in California. Technically, direct democracy, but corporations spend millions to sway outcomes. 2, institutions can be captured. Whoever holds concentrated power, wealthy elites, big corporations, even political parties, tends to slowly capture regulators, lawmakers, and courts. Over time, laws get rewritten to favor the powerful. 3, cultural narratives don't change overnight. Americans are taught to value individualism and free markets. That story makes people skeptical of taxes or collective systems, even if they benefit from them. So reforms often get watered down or reversed when people fear they're losing freedom. 4, two-party lock-in. The U.S. electoral system, winner-take-all, not proportional representation, makes it very hard for new parties or new ideas to take root. Even if reforms pass, the two main parties often shift back towards serving their donors once public attention fades. 5, short attention spans and fatigue. People push for change during crises. Great Depression, New Deal, 2008 crash, Dodd-Frank. But once things stabilize, voter pressure weakens and elites dismantle reforms piece by piece. Why it reverts. In short, systems drift back when concentrated wealth plus political influence aren't permanently checked. Unless there are strong, ongoing safeguards. Campaign finance limits, strong unions, watchdog media, citizen-led oversight, the same power imbalance rebuilds itself. So the deeper question is, what guardrails would keep America from slipping back if it adopted direct democracy or social democracy? Want me to sketch out what kinds of permanent safeguards could stop that backslide?
Absolutely. I'm very curious.
Perfect. Let's tackle it. If America tried to shift into something like direct democracy or social democracy, here are the guardrails it would need so the system doesn't slide back into the money-driven setup we have now. 1, money in politics reform. Why? Wealthy donors plus corporations distort democracy. Guardrail, publicly funded elections. Every candidate gets equal government funding, no private donations. Strict limits or bans on lobbying and corporate PACs. Transparency. Every dollar spent on politics must be traceable. Number 2, stronger voting power for people. Why? Many Americans don't vote, or their votes don't carry equal weight. Guardrail. Automatic voter registration at 18. National holiday for voting. Ranked choice voting reduces two-party lock-in. Proportional representation in Congress, so small parties can survive. Number 3, independent media and information protections. Why? Public opinion gets shaped by money and misinformation. Guardrail. Break up media monopolies. Fund strong independent journalism, like BBC style. Rules requiring transparency in political ads. Teach media literacy in schools. 4. Worker and citizen power in the economy. If wealth concentrates, it eventually recaptures politics. Guardrail. Strong unions and collective bargaining rights. Worker ownership cooperatives supported by policy. Caps or heavy taxes on extreme wealth concentration. Social safety net, healthcare, housing, education, so survival isn't controlled by employers. Number 5. Constitutional or structural locks. Why? Reforms can be undone if they're just laws. Guardrail. Amendments that lock in voting rights, campaign finance rules, and worker protections. Independent watchdog agencies with citizen oversight, not appointed politicians. Regular citizen assemblies, ordinary people, randomly selected to review laws and government actions. Number 6. Local power and participation. Why? A giant federal government is easier for elites to capture. Guardrail. Push more decision-making to state-local levels with strong citizen referendums. Encourage participatory budgeting. Citizens decide directly how local tax money is spent. The core idea: to keep America from reverting. Limit money's power in politics. Guarantee citizen voice. Make voting easy and meaningful. Protect against concentrated wealth in the economy. Build permanent structures that can't be easily dismantled by future politicians. Here's the kicker. All of this requires constant participation by citizens. If people disengage, power will always pool back at the top, no matter what system is in place. Do you want me to show you what daily life would feel like for the average American if these guardrails were actually in place?
It seems like the main reason why people disengage from voting is because they feel like they don't have a voice because of the system and the way that things are set up for the most wealthy. So yes, how would this system actually look to the common person?
Exactly. You nailed it. People disengage because they feel like the game is rigged. So let's imagine what daily life could look like for an average American if those guardrails were in place. Direct democracy plus strong protections against moneyed influence. Politics and voice. Voting feels meaningful. Everyone can vote easily.
She stopped talking. Let's try it again.
Exactly. You nailed it. People disengage because they feel like the game is rigged. So let's imagine what daily life could look like for an average American if those guardrails were in place. Direct democracy plus strong protections against moneyed influence. Politics and voice. Voting feels meaningful. Everyone can vote easily. Holiday plus automatic registration. Instead of just picking between two parties, you can rank candidates or even vote on issues directly. Local say in money. Your city might let you and neighbors vote on how part of the budget is spent. Parks, schools, community projects. Citizen assemblies. Every year, thousands of regular people are randomly selected, like jury duty, to help review laws or set priorities. You know it could be you. Result: you feel like politics isn't something distant in DC. You're literally part of it. Work and economy. Stronger wages. Unions and co-ops are normal, so workers bargain together. Jobs are less take it or leave it. Job security. Healthcare isn't tied to your job, so losing work doesn't mean losing your doctor. Worker ownership. Many companies are partly owned by employees, so profits are shared more evenly. Result: work still exists, but you don't feel powerless or disposable. Daily needs: healthcare, housing, education. Healthcare. Everyone has guaranteed access, like going to a library. No surprise bills. Housing. More public housing, plus policies to prevent extreme rent spikes. Owning a home is more realistic for average people. Education. College or trade school is free or low cost, so debt isn't a life sentence. Result: Your basic survival isn't tied to luck or debt. Media and information. Independent news. Instead of 5 megacorporations controlling media, there's a mix of private outlets, public-funded journalism, and local platforms. Political ads. You see who paid for them, clearly labeled. Media literacy. Schools teach you how to spot manipulation. Result, you trust information more, and decisions feel less like a spin game. Everyday example. Imagine this. You wake up, check your phone, and there's a citizen vote coming up next week. Should your city invest in more public buses or fix older roads first? You read summaries from an independent fact-checking site before voting. At work, you know your company can't just fire half the staff with no recourse. Your union has negotiated protections. Plus, since you're a partial owner, you'll get a share of profits this quarter. Your kid is in college, but you're not buried in debt because tuition is covered. You go to the doctor, swipe your health card, and walk out. No bill follows you home. At night, you watch the news. Instead of pundits yelling, you see a panel of randomly selected citizens explaining what they decided after reviewing a proposed national law. Daily life feels less like the powerful run everything, and more like I actually matter in how this country works. Would you like me to also sketch out what the wealthy and corporations would experience in this system, and why they'd fight so hard against it?
Yeah, why not? Can you break it down in a much more shorter description?
Absolutely. Here's the short version. How it would feel to the wealthy and corporations. Higher taxes and fewer loopholes. Less automatic wealth accumulation. Stronger worker rights and unions. Employees share profits and have real power. Stricter regulations and anti-monopoly rules. Can't dominate markets or politics. Less control over media and elections. Can't sway public opinion as easily. Why they'd resist? They'd lose power, influence, and unchecked advantage. Not their wealth entirely, just the ability to control the system. If you want, I can now do a super condensed version of the whole system, showing how it works for both everyday people and the wealthy in a single snapshot. It'd be like a one-page mental model.
All right, so finally, we're going to finish off with this. Yes, give us a super condensed version of the whole system and how we could move from the system we have now to this newer one. Last bit, my people.
Perfect. Here's a super condensed snapshot of the whole system, showing both sides and a path from today to a reformed system. Number 1, the system for everyday people. Politics. Voting is easy, meaningful, and includes direct citizen decisions on laws, budgets, work and economy, strong unions, co-ops, fair wages, job security, profit sharing, daily needs, universal health care, affordable housing, free low-cost education. Information. Independent, transparent media, clear labeling of ads, media literacy taught. Number 2, the system for wealthy and corporations. Taxes. Higher and fair, fewer loopholes. Power. No buying politicians, stricter lobbying rules. Regulation. Anti-monopoly laws, stricter worker protections. Media influence. Limited ability to control public narratives. 3, core principles guardrails. 1, limit money in politics. 2, ensure voting is accessible and impactful. 3, protect worker power and reduce wealth concentration. 4, lock reforms into law or constitution to prevent backsliding. 5, encourage local and citizen-led decision-making. Number 4, how to move from today, this system. 1, political reform first. Campaign finance limits, ranked choice voting, proportional representation. 2, strengthen worker and citizen power. Support unions, co-ops, and collective bargaining. 3, build social safety nets. Healthcare, housing, education reforms. 4, increase transparency. Media ownership rules, ad labeling, independent journalism. 5, incremental adoption. Start at local state levels, pilot direct democracy mechanisms, then expand nationally. 6, cultural shift. Teach civic engagement, fairness, and media literacy so people value participation and accountability. Big idea. It's about making your voice matter, limiting moneyed power, and protecting basic needs so the system works for most people rather than a few elites. If you want, I can make a single visual map or diagram showing current US system versus reformed system, so it's even easier to grasp at a glance. Do you want me to do that?
I think we are good at this point. We will save something like that for the next conversation we have about this exact subject. I like this idea. It's just probably going to be hella difficult, seeing as how the entire reason why nothing changes in the first place is because those who have the most money and power keep all of us little people down. I don't really know how we could change things, but we can only do our best, and that requires all of us to get out there and push our voice and make sure that it's heard. So that's it for this one. It was illuminating in one sense. Also, there were things that I'm sure we already all knew or assumed. So if you have any particular comments or questions, by all means, send them to me, lay them out in this video. Peace out.